She told me point-blank that she and her male best friend had reserved a hotel suite just to have a deep conversation. If you truly trusted me, you wouldn't automatically label it as infidelity. I looked at her and said, "You're absolutely right. My insecurity is entirely my own burden to carry." Then I contacted a private investigator. When I rolled the crystal-clear 4K footage of their deep conversation on the giant screen during her family's Christmas feast, everything I had built over years turned to ash in minutes. I need to get this off my chest, because months later I'm still picking through the rubble of what used to be my life. It all began with a sentence so detached from reality that I honestly thought I was suffering a medical emergency. My girlfriend of 3 years, Grace, stood in the living room of the house I owned outright, clutching an overnight duffel. She explained that her closest male friend, Julian, was going through an emotional meltdown and desperately needed someone to listen. So far, that sounded almost reasonable in her world, at least. What made my brain short-circuit was the next part. They had already booked a hotel room downtown for the whole night to have this heart-to-heart. I waited for the punchline. It never arrived. I told her calmly but firmly that no committed woman books an overnight hotel room with another man just to talk. That's not how reality works. That's when she delivered the line that's now burned into my memory forever. She straightened up, locked eyes with me, and said, "Julian and I reserved a room so we could talk in peace. If you had real trust in me, you wouldn't jump to calling it cheating." The raw nerve of it left me speechless. She wasn't merely disrespecting me. She was trying to rewrite the laws of decency and paint me as the irrational one. I didn't shout, I didn't fight. Something ancient and icy woke up inside me. I met her gaze and replied, "You're right. My lack of trust has clearly been the issue here." A triumphant little smirk curled her lips. She thought she'd finally trained me, that I was surrendering. She had no idea I had just decided that my trust in her was the actual problem, and I was about to eliminate it permanently. A bit of background. Grace and I had been together 3 years. We lived in a house I purchased and paid off long before she ever moved in. I'm a no-nonsense guy. I started my trucking company with a single rig and endless hustle. Boundaries are non-negotiable for me. I don't do emotional games. Opposite-sex best friends in a monogamous relationship. Hard pass, lies, immediate deal-breaker. When we first got together, Grace swore she was exactly the same. She claimed to despise drama and adored how direct and unshakable I was. She played the part beautifully, I'll give her that. The one flag I stupidly ignored was Julian, her college, brother from another mother. I never believed that story for a second. He was a polished, silver-spoon heir who'd never punched a clock in his life, yet swapped Porsches like sneakers. Around me, he wore a thin mask of civility that barely hid his disdain, like I was the hired help who'd somehow wandered into the wrong tax bracket. Grace's parents, especially her father, treated Julian like the son they wished they'd had. I was the blue-collar interloper who'd tricked their princess. The quiet judgment at every family gathering was suffocating. Early in the relationship, I drew a hard line about Julian. No late-night phone calls, no solo dinners, no questionable hangouts. She pushed back hard, then eventually swore she'd respect the boundary. I now know she simply got sneakier. This hotel stunt wasn't a momentary lapse. It was a deliberate test to see if I'd finally been broken in. Her lecture about my trust issues proved it. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a doormat with a healthy bank balance. The second she walked out with that overnight bag, I shifted into execution mode. First call. A private investigator named Frank, ex-detective, stone-cold professional. I met him the next morning, laid out every detail, and told him I didn't want hunches. I wanted ironclad, high-resolution proof that would survive a court of law. I paid for a full week of surveillance and specifically requested 4K video. He didn't blink, just nodded like he'd done this 1,000 times. While Frank got to work, I started my own forensic audit. We had a joint checking for household bills, but personal savings and investments were supposed to remain separate. 2 sleepless nights poring over statements revealed a sickening pattern. Grace had been siphoning money for at least a year, inflating grocery totals, exaggerating utilities, then quietly moving the extra into a hidden account. Small amounts at first, but it totaled well over 10 grand in the last 12 months alone. Then I found the real gut punch. A few months earlier, Julian had blown yet another business opportunity. Grace begged me to lend him money. I refused outright. I wasn't bankrolling a spoiled playboy's bad bets. We fought. I thought it died there. It didn't. I discovered multiple transfers from her secret account straight into Julian's, $15,000 total. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd robbed our future to bail out her real priority. Frank called on day 3 with an update that made my blood run cold. He sent a secure link. The photos were devastating. Grace and Julian at a restaurant so expensive she used to claim we could never afford it, feeding each other dessert. Julian clasping a diamond tennis bracelet around her wrist in a high-end jeweler, the two of them checking into the penthouse suite of a 5-star hotel. Frank confirmed he had eyes inside, and the main event was being recorded. The next 7 days were torture. I had to act normal. Grace came home radiant, gushing about how she'd been such an amazing friend and how much better Julian felt. No mention of the bracelet now glittering on her arm. I smiled, told her I'd done some soul-searching, and realized she was right. My insecurity was toxic, and I was committed to fixing it. She practically purred with satisfaction. Predictably, phase 2 of their victory lap began. Her mother called, practically glowing, saying how proud she was that I was finally maturing and accepting Grace's purely platonic soulmate bond with Julian. Then came the demand. Their big annual Christmas dinner was approaching. Julian would of course be attending, and it would be the perfect stage for me to publicly apologize to everyone, especially to Julian, for my toxic jealousy over the years. They didn't just want me humiliated, they wanted it gift-wrapped in front of 30 witnesses. I told her I thought that was a beautiful idea and I couldn't wait to make things right. Over the next weeks I operated like a ghost. I met my attorney, confirmed the house was solely in my name, had eviction papers drawn up timed for December 25th. I opened brand new accounts, rerouted every penny of my business income, drained my legal half of joint savings, and canceled every shared credit card. A week before the dinner, Frank delivered the master file on an encrypted drive, full report, receipts, bracelet appraisal, and 2 video files. I watched exactly 4 seconds of the hotel footage. It was more than enough. Crystal clear. Unmistakable. Christmas night arrived. We pulled up to the sprawling estate designed to remind visitors of their place. The entire clan was there, her condescending father, her fake sweet mother, and Julian holding court by the fireplace like a prince. He shook my hand with that oily smile and said he was glad we could finally move past all the unfortunate tension. Dinner was pure theater. I laughed at the right jokes, complimented the food, played the reformed boyfriend to perfection. Grace stayed glued to Julian's side, shooting me occasional looks of pure victory. After the main course, her father rose for the traditional toast, talking about forgiveness, family, and growth. Then he turned to me, glass raised. And a special cheer to our future son-in-law for finally learning to trust our daughter's impeccable judgment. The table erupted in polite applause. I stood, smiling, and thanked him for his generosity. I told them I was so touched I'd prepared a little holiday video montage as my gift to the family. An hour earlier, I'd casually brought in a compact but powerful projector for the gift exchange later, and aimed it at the only blank wall in the dining room. Grace looked curious, her father looked flattered, expecting a sentimental photo reel. I clicked the remote. First image, the itemized receipt for the diamond bracelet, price in bold. A ripple of confusion. Next, security cam footage of Julian fastening that same bracelet on Grace's wrist while she beamed. Gasps. Then the restaurant clip, candlelit, intimate mouths meeting over tiramisu. Grace went ghost white. I let the hotel footage roll for a full 30 excruciating seconds. No audio needed when the picture is 4K. Grace's mother began openly weeping. Her father's face cycled red to purple. Julian looked ready to vomit. I killed the feed, silence so thick you could choke on it. I raised my glass toward her father. To Grace's impeccable judgment, I said calmly. Then I turned to Grace. You were 100% right. My trust issues were the problem. Consider them cured. I slid the eviction notice across the linen tablecloth. You have 30 days to vacate my property. I walked out while the room detonated behind me, screams, sobs, crashing crystal. It was the sweetest holiday music I'd ever heard. I drove home, blocked every number I'd ever associated with that family, and changed every lock on the house before midnight. The meltdown was instant. Grace blew up my phone from unknown numbers, hysterical voicemails I deleted unheard. Saturday morning, she showed up banging on the door. I spoke through the Ring camera. Everything would happen on my schedule under supervision per the legal notice. She threatened to call the cops. I told her to go right ahead and hung up. Monday, her father's high-priced law firm fired off a blistering letter accusing me of illegal recording, revenge porn, defamation, the works. They demanded I destroy all evidence and apologize or face financial ruin. I forwarded it to my attorney, Sam, a shark who eats rich bullies for breakfast. Sam laughed for a solid minute, then wrote back a letter so surgically brutal it should be framed. He shredded their legal arguments, then attached proof of Grace's systematic theft and the $15,000 she funneled to Julian. He closed by inviting them to sue so we could countersue for fraud and drag both cheating parties through depositions under oath. Radio silence within 48 hours. A week later, Grace's cousin Sarah, the only sane one in that circus, messaged me. She'd been at the dinner and was horrified. She filled in the glorious aftermath. Julian's family cut him off completely. His father's reputation couldn't survive the scandal. Julian disappeared. Grace and her parents were at war. They blamed her for tarnishing the family name. She blamed them for pushing her toward Julian since college. The house was apparently a war zone. When moving day finally came, I had 2 off-duty cops on site. Grace arrived with her mother. Both looked hollowed out. They packed in total silence. As Grace reached the door, she tried one last time, voice breaking. "I really did low. It doesn't matter anymore," I said, and closed the door. Final loose end. Julian's father received a polite letter from my attorney laying out exactly how his son had received $15,000 of stolen money, complete with bank records. We suggested quiet restitution would keep things private. 2 weeks later, a cashier's check for the full amount arrived. No note, no apology. I sold the old house, too many ghosts. Bought a sleek condo downtown, poured myself into the business, started lifting again, reconnected with real friends. Word is Grace fled to another state to live with some aunt, trying to outrun the wreckage. Julian is still radioactive in every circle that matters. Her parents' social invites have dried up. In those circles, delicious scandal travels at the speed of light. They wanted a performance. I gave them a masterpiece they'll never unsee.